रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन हो गया तुषार जी।
ठीक है।
हेलो।
हाँ 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 हाँ।
आप देखिए अपना पार्टिसिपेंट लिस्ट के पास वो कैमरा का रिकॉर्डिंग साइन दिख रहा होगा।
नहीं, हाँ ऊपर दिख रहा है ना, रिकॉर्डिंग चालू है
ना? ठीक है, ओके।
प्रथमा मैम, गुड मॉर्निंग।
ये थे एल्सा, एल्सा नहीं, एल्सा नो, ये
गुड मॉर्निंग सर, पार्लिकर सर। सर आप
Good morning. Namaste. Namaskar.
नमस्कार।
How are you, sir?
आई एम फाइन सर। बहुत सालों के बाद वर्चुअली मुलाकात सर।
जी जी जी।
प्रथम मैम आप म्यूटेड हैं।
Now can you see me?
Yes, yes. It was.
You can hear me. Yes, yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now. It's a background or it's a garden, ma'am?
It's a background.
Today is Raksha Bandhan, so many.
Today is Raksha. I don't know how many people will log in. That is the thing.
Dr. Rao sir has joined in.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Sir, very good morning. You are muted, sir.
Very good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Pranam.
Nice background photograph.
Yeah, you are seeing your image there.
So nice.
Thank you, sir. Pleasant memories.
We are missing because of the COVID, but advantage is we are seeing each other more frequently.
More frequently, yes.
Pratama, you are doing very great job.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope today's program also works out well. Sir, I tried to contact you through WhatsApp before the program, but somehow we missed out. Dr. Paralikar, sir.
Is it okay?
But no need, no problem. Sona and Vivek were in touch with me.
Yes, sir. I know, sir. Yes. Hello, sir.
Vivek, sir,
This sir has joined.
you are muted.
Yeah.
Hi, Tushar.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Where is Sona?
I was searching for her actually in the participant list. Then I. Please call her.
Only 9 participants. I think Raksha Bandhan.
Ma'am, I hope it will go above this 70, 75.
ಅಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ನೋಡೋದಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಮೇಡಮ್ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಮೇಡಮ್ ಯಾವ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕು.
People will take some time to join. They join after 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Another 10 minutes left.
Good morning, Kirpekar Saab.
Namaste, TSS sir. When are we meeting physically?
National Midterm CME, 27th.
Okay, I will be on. I will be digitally visiting.
You must come. Some people are coming. Please come. आइए ना सब लोग मिलना है वहां पे.
कहाँ पे है सर 27 को?
होटल ओबेराई 27, 28, 29.
Okay.
28, 29 national midterm CME, but 27th is EC meeting.
Okay.
Sir, the screen share is working now?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. फिर क्यों screen share हो रहा है? हाँ? Nobody is coming.
Prathama, you are sitting in a garden?
Sir, it's the background which looks like a garden. Just back looks, but it's not a garden. It's a room. It's a chamber, sir.
Good morning, Sona ji.
Now 15 are joined.
Yes. Savita ma'am.
Hello, Savita madam. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Rao. So good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Ma'am, good morning.
Dr. Paralikar.
Good morning, ma'am.
Wishing Sona ji is like going back to sleep.
Sonaji is going back to sleep.
No.
Ah.
Word says go back to sleep like that.
Sona.
Sona ji.
Sona. No. You got it wrong. No. Sona is gold. No, never say that sleep. Sona is gold. Dr. Rao.
But it looks like instruction for us to go back to sleep.
No. It says that here is the gold in front of you. All right. Prathama, good morning. Our speaker for the day. Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, Sona on Raksha Bandhan day. Oh my God. How hard can this become, you know? Your
Ma'am, you are muted.
your audio. It's not, it's
Ma'am, Sona ma'am, you are muted.
you're muted, Sona. See, Sunday morning, Raksha Bandhan day. Early morning.
Yes, true.
It's
That's
tough,
true.
very tough.
Tough.
That shows our seriousness to the cause. That, that shows our seriousness towards psychotherapy.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
We
we
would
are-
be as serious about psychotherapy if we did it in the evening, of course. Maybe better.
We
I
have two
know.
other programs today.
I know. Huh?
Two other programs.
Too many
You think
programs.
so?
Yes,
Too many
no
programs.
slots available. I understand that. So, okay. It's great. How are you, Dr. Paralikar?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
Very good.
Great.
Surviving.
Wow. If you say surviving, then we must be sent to Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. Oh, yes. Oh, my God.
Definitely.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There can't be anything worse than that ever in life, in anybody's life.
Kirpika sir,
Yes, madam. शुरू करें?
10 बज गया सर.
हाँ, शुरू करें.
हाँ जी.
Good morning, everybody. We welcome you on this day of Raksha Bandhan for this session in psychotherapy, where we have Prathama Guha, who's going to talk on CBT, and we have two renowned psychiatrists, senior psychiatrists as chairpersons for today's session. We have Dr. Savita Malhotra, somebody who does not need any kind of introduction in Indian psychiatry, a doyen of a person who retired as a dean of PGI Chandigarh, who has been appreciated for her work all over the world. And her main work is in realms of child psychiatry, but she has other interests also in telepsychiatry and other areas of psychiatry, and very active member of Indian Psychiatric Society. Her chairperson today is Dr. Vasudev Paralikar, a person who was 4 years senior to me at BJ Medical College, Pune, who's probably one of the few persons who have received PhD from Switzerland, and his main work is mainly into psychosomatics. He has done a lot of work in uh, that area. Currently, he is busy a program which is sponsored by Germany, where they are doing some work in fields of child sexual abuse. So welcome Dr. Paralikar and Dr. Savita Malhotra, madam.
Thank you,
Now
sir.
you take over.
Savita, please.
Yeah, yes. Dr. Paralikar, please, you start.
The topic of CBT is close to my heart because right since learning about single session CBT in neurasthenia, and the only useful mode that was proved was CBT when I did my work in neurasthenia spectrum disorders. So it is a great honor for me to be here, and I thank the organizers and the speaker for taking up such an important topic, and looking forward to the deliberations today on this auspicious day of Rakhi. So I would request Dr. Savita ma'am to add, please.
Thank you, Dr. Paralikar, and thank you, Dr. Vivek Kirpekar, for a very generous introduction. And I must thank the committee, Dr. Kirpekar, Dr. Sona Kakkad, and the team for inviting me over to chair this session today. I see S.S. Rao also in the audience, and there are many other senior IPS officials and members of the IPS, and our psychiatric fraternity members who's logged into to listen to this talk today morning. Our speaker today is Dr. Prathama Chaudhary. And just introducing Dr. Prathama, she is a graduate from Calcutta National Medical College, and she's done her MD Psychiatry from CIP Ranchi, currently working with Fortis Hospital, has published nationally, internationally, and is going to talk about CBT. Now, CBT, when we say, actually, all the behavior therapies came as a antithesis to psychoanalysis. When we talk of psychotherapies, the history of origin of behavior therapies, it came because when the psychoanalytic theory and therapies, they somehow people were not very much enchanted by it, and some kind of a criticism or shortcomings were highlighted. Not that all psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, psychoanalytically oriented psychotherapy is useless or baseless. I wouldn't say that at all. I think it's a matter for discussion for another time, perhaps, as that psychoanalysis also is finding resurgence and finding its links with neurodevelopment and developmental neuroscience, and finding neurobiological underpinnings. So all the criticism about psychoanalysis that it was subjective, it was not amenable to validation, that it was only some kind of an abstract in the realm of abstraction. It was not tangible, so it was not scientific. Now, all that kind of criticism that psychoanalysis met with rightly at that time. But now I think our developments in neuroscience and developments in particularly cognitive neuroscience has given us a lot of now evidence and possibility of linking psychoanalytic psychotherapy with the neurobiology. Now, having said that, CBT and behavioral therapies. Now, behavior therapies, when they came into existence, this was based on very simple models of learning, classical conditioning, operant conditioning. They were very, very simplistic models derived from the animal experiments. And that again, although I mean, came up as a big kind of a promise, but was not able to hold to that promise uh, very soon. And it was found that apart from a simple, human beings cannot be treated as a simple stimulus response arc or a reflex. So there is something in between, that is the organism, that is the O factor between stimulus and response, that is important. And what is this O factor? And there came the relevance of cognitive factors, motivational factors, thought process, and so on. So thereafter, this developments in cognitive psychology, humanistic psychology, that all found a place and got incorporated into behavioral therapy methods and models, and we found resurgence or emergence of a very, very newer forms of psychotherapies, applied behavioral analysis, cognitive behavior therapy, and so on and so forth. So I think CBT still remains one of the very popular, very highly tested, studied, researched form of psychotherapy. And there is a lot of evidence of its efficacy in various treatment of various psychiatric disorders, more than many other forms of psychotherapy. But talking about its application and use by psychiatrists, I think psychiatric, our fraternity in general, somehow they feel that, I mean, there is a group who thinks the psychotherapy doesn't work or is not needed. There's a group who feels the otherwise. The psychotherapy is highly valuable mode of treatment and absolutely essential, and is effective and needed. I think what is to be done is that we have to create a kind of prepare a kind of a template, not a template, but a kind of a guideline or a system where it is demystified, psychotherapy is demystified, it's simplified, it's linked with science, because all of us psychiatrists, we believe in hardcore science. So anything that does not find a scientific basis will be rejected straight away. So link it with the science, link it with neuroscience, link it with the evidence-based research studies, and that will find and simplify it, demystify it. That's what I think is the take or the task for us here in this group. I'm sure Dr. Prathama Chaudhary has a lot to kind of teach us, explain to us, and present to us what the introduction of CBT and how it can be used, and what is the kind of basis for that, the theoretical underpinnings of CBT. Thank you very much for having me over. And with this, I have great pleasure inviting Dr. Prathama Chaudhary for her presentation. Dr. Prathama, you will take about an hour for presentation. How do you want to go about?
We usually, thank you, ma'am. We usually do it like, I'll go for about, let's say I'll try to finish within 50 minutes or so. And then we go for a break. And after that, it's mostly discussion. But if possible, I'll show a few videos just to stimulate the discussion so that, people are more, I can ask them showing the videos and all. But the initial lecture part will last for about, let's say 50 to 55 minutes, if you allow me.
And Dr. Sona, what is the total duration of the session today, this morning? Is it 2 hours, 1.5 hours? How much? We start at 10 and then finish at what time?
Ma'am, it goes on till 11. Then we have a break. So that's 1 hour, 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes to 30 minutes of discussion.
Okay, so 1.5 hours total?
Half hours, yes.
1.5 hours total. All right. And this break will comprise of what?
Just coffee, personal coffee and some music.
Okay, great.
Just like to chew or to break down the information and then come back with all the questions. Reflection time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Dr. Prathama, stage is yours now.
Very good morning to all of you. Thank you so much, Savita ma'am, for your kind introduction. Just a small correction. I have done my MBBS from Calcutta Medical College and I teach at Calcutta National Medical College. And very warm welcome to everybody today on the Raksha Bandhan day. Without much ado, I'll start off with my presentation. Let me share the screen. Can you see the screen, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, good morning, everybody. You have already had a series of lectures on different types of psychotherapy and psychodynamic psychotherapy in particular. But today we'll be talking about cognitive behavior therapy. As you can see, the cognitive behavior therapy seeks to modify our cognitions or thoughts and also our behavior. But in today's presentation, just a second, I'll just, sorry. So today, my presentation, I'll focus mainly on the cognitive or the thought part of cognitive behavior therapy. I'll quickly go through some of the behavioral techniques, but as we don't have so much time, we'll not go into details of the behavioral techniques. The proponents of cognitive behavior therapy or CBT believe that thought is central to our existence. So thought is at the root of all our feelings and behavior. So if we think we have lost something, we feel sad. If we think we have gained something, we feel happy. If we add an element of surprise to our gain, then happiness turns into delight. And behind every angry action, there is a sense of injustice. Most terrorist organizations, they cleverly use this aspect of human psychology to arouse anger among their rank and file. They kind of brainwash young minds into believing that a grave injustice is being meted out to them or their tribe, and this turns them into killing machines. And the success of their methods alone, I think, tells us how powerful our thoughts can be in modifying our emotions and our behavior. I'll start with an example. A man walks to the nearest store and asks for a pack of cigarettes. The clerk says his brand is out. The man concludes that the clerk had the cigarettes but got rid of him because he did not like his looks. Now, what do you think of this man? He has a distinct paranoid twist to his thinking, and it's clear that the way his mind works is not like you or me. But if we go to the next example, consider the case of a woman whose husband comes home with a cloudy look on his face. She immediately concludes that he is angry because she was too tired to make love the previous night. She responds quickly by becoming peevish and defensive.
Prathama, please hold your mic a little away from your mouth. It is great. Additional sound is coming.
Okay, sir. Now is it okay?
Now
yes, it's clear now.
Now consider the case of a woman whose husband comes home with a cloudy look on his face. She immediately concludes that he is angry because she was too tired last night. She responds quickly by becoming peevish and defensive. This logic makes perfect sense to her until she learns that her husband had a minor auto accident on the way home. So she is a woman next door. Unlike the first example, many of us can identify with this woman who jumps to a conclusion without gathering enough evidence. Just because I had a tiff with you last night, you are being nasty with me. You are trying to take revenge. Immediately, this thought makes me very peevish and I become angry. I respond in short sentences. Short sentences. Unless, of course, there's a revelation of sorts, I realize that you had a minor auto accident on the way back home. So this is something, this example, I gave this example to tell you that all of us in our daily lives, we make such cognitive errors and biased judgments. Therefore, all of us can learn something or the other from CBT. Some of you may have seen the teaser that we were circulating just before our presentation in the last week. There we talked about Plato's cave. It's an allegory that Plato used while teaching his students. He said the story goes somewhat like this: if two people are in a cave with their, they're seated in such a way that their backs are turned towards the entrance of the cave and they can't look back to see the entrance. All the other comforts, basic comforts of life are provided to them. Now, what happens? These two people will grow up seeing only the shadows of the real world in front of them. But seeing is believing. So they will start believing that the shadows are the real truth to them. Plato gave this example to tell his students that reality, in fact, for us is what we perceive reality to be. And our perception or thinking about the world around us determines how we feel about it. Like I said, if we think we have been unjustly treated, we get angry. This in turn determines our feelings, determine how we behave in a particular situation. So if we go backwards, what happens? What we can see is we can't see a person's thoughts. We can see his behavior. We can also, from his behavior, we can make we can surmise what his feelings are. Is he angry? Is he happy? And then if we go back, what is the cause of his anger? If we trace back the path, then we'll one day quickly will come to the root of that feeling, that is a thought somewhere. So as Freud had famously said that the dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, we can give a small twist to it to say that emotion is the royal road to cognition. Going back from our emotions, we can trace our thoughts or our client's thoughts or our patient's thoughts as it may be. Now, so far, I think I have brainwashed into thinking that thought is central and it is our thought that results in our emotions and behavior. I'm sure some of you might be feeling a little uneasy because from your real life examples, you know that sometimes our emotions also influence the way we think. For example, consider the case of the woman. If maybe she had a fight with her husband last night, but in the morning, if she had a news that she has cracked an exam and got a very lucrative job, then maybe even if her husband came home with a cloudy look, she wouldn't be so angry. She would have rushed to tell him, listen, I have got that job. So our emotion, the background emotions also sometimes color our feelings and our behavior. Now, this debate, whether thought is more important or emotion is more important, is eternal. People have debated over it for centuries. Aristotle famously said that the thinking or the rational mind is more important, it stands over the emotional mind. He said that the rational mind is unique to human beings. Tagore, on the other hand, said, a mind all logic is like a knife all blade. It makes a hand bleed that uses it. So if you have a razor sharp mind, but it is not tempered by emotion, then if you use that knife to cut a cake, you will end up cutting your own fingers. So we need both. There is a reciprocal relationship between emotion and cognition. So as you can see on the right side of the presentation, there are a number of double arrows. So when there is an event, we appraise it cognitively, we think something about it. This in turn gives rise to the emotion, but emotions can also color our cognitive perceptions and so on and so forth. These biased thoughts or cognitive errors that we make in our everyday lives result in unnecessary pain, distress, or impairment. Therefore, we can try to identify and modify those thoughts. And that is the basic premise of the cognitive part of cognitive behavior therapy. Now, some of you may ask me, why do we focus only on the thoughts? We could have focused on the emotions as well. There are therapies that focus on emotions. My answer to you would be that it is much easier to modify thoughts than emotions because emotions are usually very passionately held. And as Oliver Sacks had said, that emotions are in our blood, sweat, and tears. So it's very difficult to stop a cascade of emotions. It is much easier and more diplomatic to identify the thoughts behind those emotions and try and correct them. So with this brief introduction, I'll just lay out before you the session objectives, what we are going to talk about today. We'll talk about the theory behind cognitive behavior therapy, the hierarchical organization of thinking, what it is, the common errors of thinking. I'll give you some small examples of the common errors of thinking that we make, and then I'll help you. I'll help you with some of the tools, the practical tools. What are the methods to identify those cognitive errors? And not just identification, I'll help you with some small things, the weapons as we call it in our armamentarium, to untwist those cognitive errors. And if I get some time, maybe I'll briefly enumerate some of the behavioral techniques that we use in CBT. As Savita ma'am has already said that, the first half of the last century belonged to Sigmund Freud and psychodynamic psychotherapy. At the other end of the spectrum, just a second. At the other end of the spectrum was B.F. Skinner and his team, who believed that free will is an illusion. And he found that he felt that human behavior is pretty similar to the behavior of mice in laboratory situations, and that we can modify human behavior by changing the environment and its reinforcement. But soon people realized that not all conditions can be treated by psychodynamic psychotherapy, and many people found it difficult to digest radical behaviorism proposed by Skinner and his team. So it is in this space that Aaron Beck developed a form of psychotherapy in the 1960s that he originally termed cognitive therapy. It is now used synonymously with CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy. It is it's very structured. You can't do as you will. It's manualized. You have to follow manuals. That is not to say that you cannot improvise, but a basic structure must be followed. Short term, it doesn't last for years on end. It is maybe 12 or 20 sessions over a period of 3 or 4 months. Present oriented psychotherapy, we don't go much into the past. The focus is here and now, and it's directed towards solving current problems and modifying dysfunctional thinking and behavior. It is educated. So initially you take a few classes with your patients, like I'm taking today. It aims to teach the patient to be her own therapist and emphasizes relapse prevention. We usually ask to keep them a diary. Whatever is going on, you write down the tasks that you do and keep that diary ready. So even if you have a relapse 10 years later, when you don't have access to a therapist, you can use that diary as a reference point. It aims to be time limited. Sessions are structured. It teaches patients to identify, evaluate, and respond to their dysfunctional thoughts and beliefs. And of course, it uses a variety of techniques, some of which we will be sharing today. Who are the people that we can treat with CBT? Clients who have insight to some extent. This is not to say that we can't use CBT for psychosis. We do use CBT in psychosis, but clients must have a little bit of insight. A good therapeutic relationship is a must, because we make them work a lot, give them homework, come back, say. So we have to have a very good rapport. It considered to be an effective treatment for depression originally, but later on we have diversified, and a number of conditions are being treated with CBT. Are there any contraindications? Not really, but these are some of the relative contraindications, but not absolute. Generally, they're not indicated for people with thought disorders. Of course, if you have formal thought disorder, it is very difficult. People with compromised intelligence or organic brain disorders, people who do not have a good grasp of therapy language. Remember, when we think in a language. We either speak to ourselves subvocally, or we talk, or we write. So if you don't have a good grasp over language, hello? Can you hear me?
116, 110.
People who do not have a good...
Because these women are at increased risk of
I will do one thing, ma'am. I will mute everybody.
Yeah.
And please unmute yourself.
Except the speaker.
Because
Yeah,
the degree
unmute
to which placental blood flow is autoregulated is not established, and aggressive lowering because fetal distress.
Please mute everybody else. Kindly mute everybody else.
Speaking about
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay. So as we were talking, that CBT is not everybody's cup of tea, but the contraindications that we are laying out down right here, that people who do not have good, who have thought disorders, or who do not have a good grasp of the therapy language, and of course, people not accepting the premise of the treatment, it is very difficult to do CBT with them. But remember, these contraindications are not
change the
absolute.
scenario in the sense now they say that 120 and 80 is
First, please mute everybody else.
for example 120 to
Please mute
139
everybody
is to be
else.
called as pre-hypertension, 140 to 159 as
Sona, Dr.
stage
Sona
1
Kakkar,
hypertension,
who is the
stage
host of the meeting,
160,
please?
170, stage 2 and stage 3 hypertension.
Dr. Sona Kakkar, who is the host of the meeting, please?
Ma'am, I think it's Chintan. Chintan, will you do it?
Oh, yeah,
I
just
think now it's better.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I think we can talk. Yes. So the cognitive model, cognitive behavior therapy is based on the cognitive model, which I've already told you, which hypothesizes that people's emotions, behavior, and physiology are influenced by their perception of events. With this introduction, now I'll go into the what we call the hierarchical organization of thinking. We often say that thoughts come, but do thoughts come out of nothing? Do they come out of the blue, or there is a history behind our thoughts? I mean, is it predetermined how we think? So let's have a look. Imagine the second situation once again. There is a critical incident. Her husband has come back with a sullen look. Her immediate automatic thought was that, oh, he's trying to take revenge. He's being so nasty. Reaction is, I'm angry with him. I'll see what he can do. Emotionally, I'm angry. Behaviorally, I'm not answering his questions. Psychologically, I'm in a turmoil. These automatic thoughts that immediately come to our mind, he's being so nasty, these are first thoughts, quick thoughts, and usually negative. Sometimes it happens that thoughts are often unnoticed. I'm just angry with someone. I don't know why I'm so pissed off. And actually, the emotion is so powerful, it overtakes me, and I can't even notice what is the thought going on. Sometimes our patients will tell you, Doctor, I was so anxious. I felt panicky, but I don't know what I was thinking about. Usually, the automatic thoughts are also associated with specific emotions. Specific thoughts, specific emotions. Some examples of automatic thoughts are like this fellow who has got social anxiety, wants to talk to a girl he likes, but he gets that immediate thought, he thinks I'm weird, so he stops. Or maybe I won't pass that test. Or my heart might stop beating, come on. Or I will get AIDS if I touch that doorknob. These are some apparently logical thoughts that suddenly come to our mind. But are they that sudden? Do all thoughts come just like that, out of the blue? Unlikely. As you know this song, nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever could. Even automatic thoughts don't come from nothing. Behind our automatic thoughts, there are what we call a set of intermediate beliefs. What are intermediate beliefs? Attentional priorities and biases which influence what we notice or don't notice. Like if you are already biased in a certain way cognitively, then that bias often influences your attentional priorities. Like this woman, she has noticed the cloudy look on her husband's face, but she has not noticed that he has got a bruise in his hand, and maybe there's a small tear in his shirt front. That has escaped. Her attention is focused only on the face. That's because of the cognitive bias she has. Similarly, from our childhood, we follow certain rules and guidelines. Like if you are a good student, you have to be very neat and clean. If you are disorganized, you cannot be a good student. So there are certain rules and guidelines we've been brought up to believe. Similarly, some expectations and assumptions about ourselves, our relationships, and situations around us. Means I've often seen people believe that if somebody loves you, this person should be able to understand what is going on inside your mind. But I often tell couples that this is not the case. You are not twins. So if you have something in your mind, do tell your partner. Don't expect that he or she will automatically understand. So these are some of the things that somehow our personality pattern, or the maybe what happened yesterday or what happened 2 years back, all these things, our past experiences, influence the direction that our automatic thoughts go, be it positive or negative. Like this man who has got social anxiety had this thought that she'll think I'm weird. From his childhood, he's been socially anxious, and probably he has determined certain safe behavior, like meeting new people makes me anxious, so I'll avoid meeting new people. Like somebody who has got health anxiety will tell himself, if I don't exert myself, my heart will not fail. Or somebody who's got a slight paranoid bent of thinking will think always look out for danger and expect it to be there so that you are never caught off guard. As you can see, all these statements are essentially safety statements. People, there may be danger, so I must be on my guard. Meeting new people makes me embarrassed. People may think I'm weird, so I'd rather not meet new people. So these safety assumptions are something known as intermediate beliefs, and they somehow direct, the direction of our automatic thoughts. And behind these intermediate level of beliefs, we have certain core beliefs which define us, our personality. Core belief statements have an absolute quality to them. They represent our underlying self values and perception. Often they are global. If I feel I'm weird, I'll feel weird at home, in college, in office, everywhere. Globally held, very rigid, and sometimes overgeneralized. Core beliefs are difficult to displace. That is not to say that they cannot be displaced. And it is our duty to address those core beliefs and try to modify them. Otherwise, what will happen is that there will be relapses. Like somebody who comes to you with depression and negative automatic thoughts, if you just handle the negative automatic thoughts on a here and now basis, then you are not equipping that person to address future relapses. This is one place where there's an overlap between psychodynamic psychotherapy and CBT. CBT, the focus is on here and now, but not just here and now. Even in CBT, we have to go back in time, address the person's past. Maybe not the unconscious past, but at least the conscious past. What happened? If we don't understand this person, what is the basis of his particular thought that is happening? Then the addressal will remain incomplete. So we must go back to the past. We can't do without the past, even in CBT. Some examples of core beliefs are like, I'm unlovable, nobody loves me, I'm worthless, I'm inadequate, or I'm unsafe in this big bad world. So these are some of the basic beliefs that sometimes define our personality. We call them core beliefs or schema. Just one example. For example, a boy is reading a new chapter in maths. He's got stuck with a sum and he can't move forward. He can't do it. Immediate automatic thought that comes to him, instead of saying that I'll try it one more time, this is just too hard, I'm so dumb, I'll never master this and I'll never make it. The reaction to it is emotionally discouragement, physiologically a sense of heaviness in the body, maybe a sinking feeling in the chest, and behaviorally he just avoids the task, abandons the book, and watches television instead. Now, these automatic thoughts probably have a root in his past. Maybe he had a core belief that he is incompetent. Maybe he had a brilliant brother who was very good at maths or something. I don't know. I'm just surmising. From that core belief that I'm incompetent, he has developed certain attitudes that, first of all, it is terrible to fail. He feels that failure is terrible. He can't take failure. Therefore, a safety belief that is an intermediate belief that he makes, if I get a challenge which is too great, I should give it up. If I try to do something difficult, I'll fail. If I avoid doing it, I'll be okay. So it's just a kind of a, harm avoidance kind of an intermediate belief that's happening. So I think this example quickly sums up how behind every automatic thoughts, there could be a baggage of the past which needs to be addressed. We have finished off with the introduction to CBT. Now we'll give some examples. I'll not say this is not at all an exhaustive list, but I'll give some examples of the everyday cognitive errors or distortions that we make. Something known as all or none thinking. Typically what happens after the board exams are out every year, we see a number of suicides occur. Boys and girls, they commit suicide. We don't know. We sometimes ask ourselves, what's wrong with these young boys and girls? Some of them have failed, some of them have passed, but maybe not with flying colors. Why do they end their lives? So for them, it is actually a all or none thinking. Either I'm perfect or I'm a total failure. So there is no midway, nothing in between. We have to teach them how to think in shades of gray. Many people don't have this ability.
This is known as all or none or black and white thinking. Another example would be overgeneralization. I will never be able to make friends at a party because long back, many years back, I once made an awkward statement to someone and they didn't want to be my friends. So from one situation, you are generalizing to a number of situations. I made a faux pas someday, therefore I'll make a fool of myself in every gathering, so I'd rather not go there. This is known as an overgeneralization. Another is discounting the positive. These people can be really nagging. You know, they are the classical pessimists. I have passed an exam with very good results, but it was a fluke. We also call it a filtering process. You know, you just filter out the positives and left only with the muddy sediment, the residue of negative thoughts. They can be very maddening as friends. You know, we keep telling them stop nagging. Problem is that they are not nagging. They're not attention seeking. They truly believe that their success was a fluke. So next time when there is another exam, they can't take heart from the fact that last time they had done so well. They again go through the same rigmarole of anxiety, panic, and so on and so forth. Jumping to conclusion. This is, remember the first example? This man went to the store, asked for a pack of cigarettes. The person said, I don't have your brand. He immediately concluded that he has the cigarettes. He's lying. He doesn't look like his face, so he's refusing him the cigarettes. This kind of jumping to conclusion typically occurs in case of paranoid thinking. It has got a very important role in formation of persecutory delusions. These people have a need for closure. They want to quickly close the chapter. So instead of gathering contrary evidence, instead of gathering all kinds of evidence, they just log on to the first evidence that comes to them, the first thought that comes to them, and close the chapter there. This is called jumping to conclusions. Something called magnification. Magnification is not overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is one situation has happened today, it will happen tomorrow, 2 years later, and so on. Magnification is that we, stick on to a particular situation and magnify its implication for ourselves. There is a lump on my skin, it may be life-threatening. This is magnification. Emotional reasoning. Like this picture. I feel like an idiot, so I really must be one. So it typically happens in social anxiety. I feel I'm making a mess of myself. Nobody has told me, come on, you're making a mess of yourself. Nobody has told me, hang on, stop, don't talk rubbish. But still I feel, because inside I'm feeling so stupid, I feel I'm being stupid. And I become very, very self-conscious. I start blushing and all those things keep happening. Something called should statements. We sometimes, as I said, thoughts are basically self-talks. So if I tell myself I should be perfect and should never make mistakes, that is a big fallacy. There's another way of should statements, I can tell you, that where we tend to think that if I'm good, if I'm fair and just, then the world must also be fair and just to me. I still remember long back in college, we used to travel in a crowded public bus. I was traveling, then a woman came with the baby in her arms. Of course, I offered my seat. Then after some time, the next seat was vacant. I thought I'll go and sit there. She stopped me and invited her husband. I still remember as a young college student, I was so angry. I said, what is this? She's not being fair to me. But many years later, now when I look back, I understand that I was making a should statement. She could have had her own reasons for calling in her husband, not me. And we have no business to judge others, and we should not have the expectation that because we are being fair, the world must in turn be fair to us. That's a very fallacious way to think. If you do something good, if you do a kind deed, you do it for your own self-image, for that, and you don't do it for a return gift. So these are some of the mistakes that we often make. Labeling is another mistake. Instead of criticizing the job that I have done or somebody else has done, I label myself or somebody else. So instead of saying that I failed the exam because maybe I didn't study enough or maybe I didn't grasp the concepts, I give myself a global label that I am stupid. If I had told myself I didn't study enough, I could correct it. If I told myself I couldn't grasp the concept, I could get a teacher. But if I tell myself I'm stupid or somebody else is stupid, then this becomes beyond correction. Personalization, this is something else. My son is doing poorly in school, so I must be a bad mother. I discount the fact that my son had just got admission in a coaching camp and he was too busy with his cricket, or maybe my father was so ill, so our family was in a topsy-turvy. No, he has done badly, so I must be a bad mother. So this is essentially taking all the blame on myself. The opposite of personalization is blaming. Personalization results in depression, blaming results in psychosis, paranoid psychosis specifically. I've given you some examples. Like I said, this is not at all an exhaustive list. You can go through any standard textbook to see many of the cognitive errors that people make and we also make in our lives. There are some ways. Now we come to the tools, like I had promised that I'll help you with some of the tools that we use to identify and then untwist those cognitive errors. So what are the different ways we can carry out our assessments? First and foremost, we have to make a cognitive conceptualization of the case. Like we do a diagnostic formulation, this is for PGTs. If I ask you to do a cognitive conceptualization, I'll ask you to go something like this. First of all, you must identify the trigger, the situation that gave rise to the negative automatic thoughts. And what are the implications of those negative automatic thoughts in terms of the person's emotions, behavior, or physiological changes. Then I'll gently go back to the past to find out what were the intermediate or conditional assumptions, the core beliefs. In order to find out those core beliefs and intermediate assumptions, I have to have the relevant childhood data or experiences. Tools to identify negative automatic thoughts. Of course, you can ask direct questions. This is the most straightforward method of eliciting negative automatic thoughts. Do you know what was going through your mind last night when you had that panic attack? What thoughts exactly crossed your mind? Some people will tell you, ma'am, I was thinking I'll have a heart attack, I might faint, something will happen to me. So if they can say, very good, this form of questioning can quickly establish whether clients have the ability to identify their thoughts. Unfortunately, many times people can't identify those thoughts. They're so overwhelmed by the emotions that accompany those thoughts, they find they say it's blank. I don't know why I had those palpitations. Then we have to use some more subtle techniques. One such technique will be asking the patient to keep a dysfunctional thought record, or a DTR as we call it. It's nothing. You just tell them that when you are, at the end of the day, when you are free, just keep a diary with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. There are 6 columns. The first 4 columns are for you. You can write down different situations throughout the day. What did you do? 9 o'clock, then 10 o'clock, then 10 to 10:40, something like that. The situations and what you were doing at that point of time. And what were the accompanying emotions? You were feeling neutral. You were feeling angry. You are feeling sad, and you can also rate the emotions in a scale between 0 to 100. Were there any accompanying physical sensations? Yes, I was feeling very sad. I don't know why. After lunch, when I was ironing my clothes, I felt very sad. And any physical sensation? Yes, something, a sinking feeling in my chest, as if it's hollow inside. I don't know what was happening to me. Now I'll ask her to reconstruct the entire situation, because she was not being able to tell me what thoughts went through her mind directly. So I'll say, now you have got enough cues for yourself. You know the situation, you know what was emotion that you were feeling and what physical sensations. Now can you, with our help, gently will help you to reconstruct the scene. It's like taking the witnesses to the scene of crime, like the police do, to help them reconstruct the scene. So we are providing them with cues that help them reconstruct the entire scene, with the hope that once the whole scene is reconstructed, they can remember what thoughts actually or images went through their mind. Oh, yes, ma'am, I remember now. I had that sinking feeling, and I felt maybe 3 months back, I used to iron clothes for myself and my daughter. Now my daughter has gone to America for higher studies. I'm lonely. That is essentially the thought. Now I remember it. So once you have filled up, the patient is asked to fill up those 4 columns. sometimes with our help in our chamber, sometimes back in the safety of our own home, no issues. But then after that, we come to the next two columns, which I will tell you later on, how to help them untwist those unhelpful thoughts. I'll just give an example here. Like for this woman, I can tell her what is the bigger picture. Can you look at it like this, that she has gone for higher studies, she's a very good student, she'll probably make a name for herself, maybe she'll come back, or you can also arrange for leave at your workplace, go to her, stay for 2 weeks every year or something like that. Or what advice would you give to your friend? Like the same thing happens to your friend, her daughter has also gone abroad. If she comes and tells you she's very sad, how are you going to console her? So why don't you use the same technique for yourself? So that is an alternative thought is being, the options are being given to her. And then the last column is that if you can think like that, does it change your emotion? Like your depression was, let's say 90%, and now has it come down to, let's say 70%. So last two columns will come later on, but the first four columns are of the DTR is helping the client to reconstruct the thought and then reconstruct the situation and then recollect the thought that might be accompanying her feelings and emotions. There's another technique which can be used to identify dysfunctional thoughts that is known as the Socratic method of questioning. It has been taken from, of course, the methods used by Socrates with his pupils. It involves the client and therapist both actively collaborating. We work together. We help the clients explore themselves, recognize their knowledge deficits, and if they can do it themselves, it will increase their desire to learn and motivate them to find answers to their own problems. What is it exactly? There are different types of Socratic questions, and I'll give you examples. Some are clarification questions, some are reason and evidence questions. There are origin or source questions, and finally, implication and consequence questions. Clarification questions are like, oh, you had panic attack, you say. What do you mean by a panic attack? You can ask, what do you mean by it? Or could you give us an example? You say that you have failed in all aspects of life so far. Can you please give me some example where in all you have failed? Or maybe another question could be, could you expand upon that point further? If we show you a video at the end of our presentation, this will be more clear. But these are some examples of clarification questions. Reason and evidence questions. Like, okay, you feel you have a cyst in the ovary and it is malignant. What makes you think it is malignant? Where did you get this information from? Google. Okay. Do you think any other source of information is necessary? Have you had a talk with your doctor? Or you have just Googled with people suffering from ovarian malignancy. So I'm asking the patient, I'm helping the patient to doubt their own thoughts. This is very important. You have to teach patients to be skeptical about their own thoughts. Nothing should be accepted without, blindly. This blind faith is something we want to discourage in cognitive therapy. We don't want anybody to believe everything as home truth without even bothering to check up the evidence. Implication and consequence questions. Okay, I understand that you are going to fail. Your preparation is such that you may not pass. What effect would that have on you? That is very important for you as a therapist or a psychiatrist to understand what are the personal implications for a particular patient. Like somebody says, if I fail, I'll die. You say, oh, come on. If you get a supply in first MB, you will sit in the re-examination after 6 months. But you don't know, maybe his father is retiring and he was hoping that if he clears final MB in one go, then he'll take a job in the nursing home and he'll be able to support his father. Or maybe his girlfriend has given him an ultimatum: if you fail, I'll leave you, or something like that. So you must understand the personal implications for the patient. Questions that you can also ask: could that really happen, or probably happen? Or why is it so bad? I understand, but why is it so bad to fail? And what are you implying by that? These are some examples that I'm trying to tell you. You can always improvise, but these are rough guidelines to ask implications and consequence question. It is also known as the downward arrow technique. Origin or source question. See, you can ask questions like, is this your idea or did you hear it from somewhere else? Somebody else has told you. Have you always felt this way? So this question is actually paving our way to the patient's past. We are asking her, have you always felt this way? Has your opinion been influenced by something or someone? We are again getting into the past experiences, what shapes up the patient's beliefs. So origin or source questions usually lead us to the core beliefs. Other assessments in CBT include something known as a cognitive distortion scale. We can use Beck's and standard, Beck or anxiety inventory, depression inventory, etc. The CDS is an important scale, but we can do some of these techniques. We can borrow from other scales to identify cognitive errors. Now we come to the last part of our presentation. That is, let's say we have identified the cognitive errors. Now you can't leave your client at that. You have to teach them the techniques to untwist those cognitive errors. What are those different techniques? Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but I'll give you some examples. First example would be untwisting the thoughts. How do we untwist thoughts? Like, instead of, it's called the examining the evidence. Instead of assuming that your negative thought is true, that your cyst in the ovary is malignant, have you examined the evidence for it? Or are you just being anxious for no reason? Ask yourself, what are the facts? What do they show? Why do you think it is true? And then finally, this is very important, I think, is there a reason to doubt that evidence? Like I said, self-skepticism is a must. You must ask yourself whether you are being right or not. Don't believe in whatever is forwarded in your WhatsApp. Don't believe in whatever the internet feeds you. Doubt everything. That is what we essentially want to teach our clients. Then there's something known as the semantic method, the power of words. This is very important, I think. What happens when we think something, like I said, we are thinking in terms of in the language, words and phrases that we use. Sometimes just substituting a key word here and there can make us feel so much better, and we can do it ourselves. We substitute language that is less colorful and emotionally loaded. Example, instead of thinking, I shouldn't have made that mistake, you can tell yourself, it would be preferable if I had made that mistake. So just addition of the word preferable makes the blow much softer. I thought I'll give this example. This was, if you all of you know Irfan Khan, he died of neuroendocrine tumor last year. And this is one of his letters he had written to his fans and his family. Maybe he has written it to himself also. So after being diagnosed with cancer, he writes, so far in my journey, I was walking at a fast pace. I had my plans, aspirations, dreams, and destination with me. Suddenly, TC, basically ticket collector, I think, tapped on the back. Your station is coming, please get down. Suddenly you realize that you are flowing like a cork on unexpected waves in an unknown ocean. So you feel absolutely directionless, rudderless, a cork which is floating, bobbing up and down in an unexpected waves, unexpected ocean. Now, if you can understand the amount of helplessness he's feeling, he's going through. Now, if you scroll through the letter, towards the end, he finds some solace to himself. He says, every twig, every leaf, every flower shows me a new world, realizing that it is not necessarily control of the cork. Control is not necessary. It's like you are swinging in the cradle of nature. So see how intelligently he is just substituting a phrase, flowing like a cork and getting gently cradled in the, getting gently swung in the cradle of nature. It's the same thing, but he's making some change in a few key words and phrases here and there. And I believe that gave him some peace. So this is the power of words, as we call it, the semantic technique. There's something known as the responsibility pie chart. That is, you draw out the responsibilities. Remember the example of a mother whose son did badly in an examination, and she immediately concluded that this is her fault. So we will try to make her understand, we'll make her draw, in a piece of paper. Objectively, you tell me from a distance, how much are you responsible? Maybe you are 50% responsible. Another 25% was because your father was ill, you had to run from hospital to house, and therefore there was no discipline in the house, or another part, maybe your son got too engaged in his cricket coaching or something like that. So you draw up in an objective fashion what we call the responsibility pie chart. So you are not responsible, you are not Atlas, you're not responsible for the entire world's all negative things. So the RPC can also be used to help patients untwist their negative thoughts. Finally, the cost benefit analysis. When everything else fails, like truly this boy has been jilted by his girlfriend and she's going out with someone else, sharing photos, mushy photos in the internet or whatever, in the Facebook or whatever, then what to tell him? He says, see, what I thought is true. And I'm so angry, I'm so sad, I feel like calling her up every day, she has blocked me. What do you make of it? So I can't challenge the evidence because it is evident that he is right. Then what I can try the cost benefit analysis. Yes, I understand that she has jilted you. I understand that you are feeling horrible about it. But tell me something. Thinking in this fashion, trying in vain to contact her again and again when she has blocked you, is it helpful in any way? Is this thought giving you any benefit? If it is not so, if you find that it is proving too costly, you have an examination ahead, then it's better to abandon this thought for now. This is known as a cost benefit analysis. I think I have taken you through some of the techniques to untwist our cognitive errors. And like I promised, I'll quickly go through some of the behavioral techniques because CBT involves the behavior therapy part also. Some are scheduling activities, like if you are too depressed to come up with thoughts, then we can, give activity schedule, make the patient do some small activities throughout the day. So even if you feel very bad, please go out for 15 minutes in the morning, force a smile on your face when you look at the morning walkers. The idea is that even if that smile is forced, when the other people smile back with you, you have an immediate feeling that you are not alone. So this is called scheduling of activities. There's something often known as a role play. So let me become you and you become my therapist. I'm pouring my heart out to you. What advice would you give me? So that cultivates a sense of objectivity in which the patient can look at his or her problems. Relaxation techniques are also an essential part of cognitive behavior therapy. So I think I'm at the end of my presentation. So I hope we'll take a break and come back later on with role plays if I'm allowed to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prathama. This was a wonderful presentation, very, very lucid and thought-provoking, and also very, very clear message conveyed. And it's a kind of a very beautiful way of simplifying and presenting CBT, such a complex topic, in such a elegant way. Thank you so much. Dr. Vasudev, you will make some comment now, please.
Thank you, Dr. Prathama. घाघर में सागर भर दिया आपने, मगर आपका घाघर जरा बड़ा है. You should be given consecutive 4 sessions every week, I suppose, or every week, so that you will get more time. And it was phenomenal. Very nice. Thank you. Looking forward to the brunch that we will have, a cocktail of discussions and presentations, and 80+ people. I must congratulate our subcommittee and Chintan sir and Vivek, you are doing great. And people, all of you, the audience, I am grateful to you. Otherwise, we were having doubts. Today is Rakhi and Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Thank you so much. We believe, I regained my trust that psychiatrists still are motivated to learn psychotherapy, practice it, refresh it, and keep on experimenting in it. That is great. Thank you so much. See you soon. Vivek, can you take over after 5 minutes or 3 minutes?
What is the duration of the break, please?
Ma'am, we'll get back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And we'll get back. We're just putting some music on and then we'll come back. Dr. Prathama will show us some videos and take questions.
And we stay logged in.
Yes. We just put on some music for a while and we can just go for a quick break and come back.
Please stay logged in. Please don't log out.
Yeah, we just stay logged in.
Yeah, easy to start again.
And we are also announcing that our next program is on the 5th of September. It's Teachers' Day, but we have a very exciting speaker on the 5th of September. So please stay tuned. We'll send our brochure for the next program soon. Quick break.
You created a business. Now, create videos for your business, easily and instantly, with Vimeo Create. Video to help you show off your products and bump up your sales. With hundreds of pre-made templates designed to get your videos performing their best. Plus unlimited stock clips, custom animations, and smart editing tools to help make your message pop. Just share your videos, get views, and watch your business grow. Start making video with Vimeo Create.
Good morning. तुम्हें लगता है वो लोग यहाँ तक पहुंचेंगे?
Okay. We are back. Okay. Dr. Pratima, all yours. Ma'am, Savita ma'am. I hope everybody had a little cup of coffee. They're back. And Dr. Pratima has some videos, and then we just take the questions.
Yes. Yes. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Oh, it's good morning still. Welcome back, all of you. I'll just share and start the videos. Yeah. Can you see those slides?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we start with the first video. Actually, I thought that the theory that we have learned, we will just show you a video and then ask you some questions. So you had a terrible anxiety attack last night, but now you're in a doctor's chamber, so relax and let's talk about it.
Yes, it was really bad. I was about to faint. My heart rate was increasing, and I somehow felt that nothing is going to work for me. Something wrong will happen. 3 days back, I got my USG report, and it says that I have a cyst in my ovary. Then doctors did a few tumor markers, and my CA125 is elevated.
Okay, so these were the facts that triggered your anxiety. But can you just go back in time and tell me that when you were having those palpitations, what thoughts exactly were crossing your mind? What were you thinking about?
I feel like I'm suffering from a life-threatening disease. I will never be able to recover from this illness.
What do you mean by illness?
Here is my gynecological cyst, and this may be malignant.
Oh my God, you have a cyst in your ovary.
I'm suffering from a life-threatening disease, ma'am. I saw on Google that 5% of these cysts are malignant, and I personally feel that if I can be there in that 5%, plus my CA125 is also elevated, that also indicates malignancy.
Exactly, but around 95% are not malignant, right? So you are not going to be there in those 5%. It's not common at your age, so relax.
Anyone can be there, plus I'm not a lucky person. I have had illnesses before, so maybe I will suffer.
That is okay. It is not always like that. It may not be that serious at all. Okay. So, even if you have an illness, let's say, what will happen?
I will have to go for chemotherapy. I will lose my hair, my skin brightness. All my dreams will be unfulfilled. I will have an untimely death.
Oh, come on, that's not true. You know, I also have a very close relative who went through all this chemo and all, and now she's perfectly fit. Yes, one or two sometimes die, but that's really unfortunate. I'm telling you from my personal experience. It's not so scary, you know. People do get better.
As I told you, I'm unlucky. I can surely be there in those 5% people and may develop malignancy. Or maybe I'm already having malignancy. Not sure. Already scared. Thank you.
Okay. Now, can you hear me? So I
Yeah.
would like to unmute the participants because I would like to know your views about this video. Have you got any reservations about the interaction that you saw between a therapist and her client? Do you think everything was all right, or do you think there is some scope of improvement somewhere, something that you didn't find right, basically? So if you can come up with that. Do I have to stop sharing?
No,
No.
that's fine. We can view everyone.
Hello there. Hi, I just had a query.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm a psychiatrist working in South India. I was just wondering, I'm supposed this is an example for us to think about what's going on, but I was just wondering, was there any scope for kind of, asking her more about her core beliefs, a little bit more, and, kind of looking at the evidence for that? And the other thing was when you said that when you were trying to kind of work on her thoughts that I will be in the 5%, although there are 95% who will kind of get well. I am in the 5%. She strongly believes she will be in that. How could we have done it otherwise? I'm just wondering again, that's probably one of your techniques which you're probably going to explain to us. But instead of saying that, no, look, I haven't had a neighbor who's nothing much has happened to her. Was there any other way of kind of, addressing that situation in a way that the client would kind of, kind of not trust us, but kind of believe us more, or perhaps some evidence, or, work around that a bit more.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Instead
you.
of going from anecdotes, could we have gone to evidence straight away? That's a very valid point raised. Yes. Something else, there are a lot of things wrong maybe in this video. So I would like all of you to brainstorm and find out what's wrong. Yeah. Showing more understanding of the fears is important. Yes.
We get to know a lot of cognitive distortions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
What is more important is to focus on the individual cognitive distortion and then sort that out.
We didn't sort it out. Yes, yes.
Also, Prathama, if I may say.
Yes, ma'am.
On the part of the therapist to say, oh no, this cannot happen.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
You are
yes.
not going to die. This will not happen. This kind of a directive and force.
Didactic. Yes.
Yes, interpretation and is not right, because this must come from the patient's own understanding and
yes, absolutely,
rather than you driving the inference and communicating, because this kind of a thing most other people, family and friends in her own family
already done. Yes,
already would be saying that no, this is not going to happen, you are not going to die. So it doesn't work.
True. Anything else from the participants? Others, please. You think everything was right?
Ma'am?
Yes.
I'm Bharti from Trichy. Sometimes what the patient says is so true. and she is in real bad shape due to a malignancy, and we feel really the situation is quite hopeless, and the sadness or the low mood or extreme depression is because of that. How can we make it really appropriate? How best can we handle the situation when her medical condition is really a not so hope giving or absolutely hopeless state? She is in a real bad state.
Yeah, so that is another issue. Like in this case, we are in a transition period. We don't really know whether this is malignancy or not. But sometimes it happens that truly a patient has come to us with a malignant in the terminal stages of malignancy. Then we use different techniques. I can use the cost benefit analysis, or sometimes we deviate from the path of CBT and go for acceptance and commitment therapy also. That is a different thing. But as of now, we are focusing on this particular situation where somebody has just been diagnosed with an ovarian cyst and a raised tumor marker. She's extremely scared and she's thinking, as you can see, she's probably magnifying. I will come to it later, what cognitive errors she's making. But I would like you to focus on this interaction. Would you like to suggest to the therapist? This therapist is not exactly doing everything right. So I will ask you, I will request you to, come up with more like already things have been pointed out that, oh my God, or, instead of being too didactic, you will not be in those 5% or things like that. Anything else? Anything else you would like to suggest?
Prathama, it would be better if you find out the faults and explain. That would be better.
Sure, sir. Yes.
Because otherwise we will be just hunting around in the bush.
Okay, sir. So I'll just share again. It's not moving.
So you had a terrible.
See, so if we can have a look at what are the oops that happened in this interaction. One was like pointed out by ma'am, that it was an emotional response. Oh my God, you had a cyst in the ovary. This is not how we do it. We may feel sad for a patient, but we cannot show our emotions so obviously. Too emotional a response is not what a therapist should do. You shouldn't say, oh my God. Even if you feel so, you have to suppress. Second was a didactic style. Instead of, she was saying, you will not be in that 5%. The client may feel, the patient may feel, who are you to know that? How do you know that I'll not be in that 5%? You are just being, telling me something, patting my back. I don't like it. This didactic style, again, is not the style that Socrates professed many thousand years ago. So we have to get it from the patient themselves, not teach them, not be too preachy. Then comes the body language. That is also important. If you have noticed towards the end of the interaction, she was just relaxing at the back, okay, as if, okay, you are being too pessimistic. This kind of a dismissive body language, come on, that sort of a thing. The words that you were using often may make the patient feel that she's not being taken seriously, or at least her anxiety is not being taken seriously enough. And the last part of it is unnecessary self-disclosure, which some of you rightly pointed out. One of my relatives went through this same thing. Who are you? Who am I to? Hello? Can you hear? One of my relatives went through the throes of chemotherapy, but one of my relatives doesn't make a difference. We can't go by anecdotes. So unnecessary self-disclosure. I also went through this before. This is an absolute no-no when you are interacting with patients. So having said that, I'll try to show you the same video in a different way. The same situation, but how exactly it should be done.
I could see that you had a terrible anxiety attack last night. But now you are in a doctor's chamber, so you can relax and tell me more about it.
Yes, it was really bad. I was about to faint. Was feeling like having palpitations, heart rate was increasing, and somehow I just felt that nothing is going right for me. Maybe like something wrong will happen.
What brought in this attack?
3 days back, I got my USG report and it says that I have a cyst in my ovary. Then doctors did a few tumor markers and my CA125 is elevated.
Okay, so these were some of the facts that led to your anxiety attack. But can you please go back in time? Like what happened yesterday when you were having those palpitations and all? What thoughts crossed your mind? I'm interested in your thoughts at that point of time.
I feel like I'm suffering from a life threatening disease. I will never be able to recover from this illness.
What do you mean by illness?
Illness I'm talking about here is my gynecological cyst, and this may be malignant.
Okay, I understand that you have a cyst in the ovary. Tell me something. So what?
I'm suffering from a life threatening disease, ma'am.
Is this your idea or you heard it from somewhere?
I saw on Google that 5% of these cysts are malignant, and I personally feel that if I can be there in that 5%, plus my CA125 is also elevated, that also indicates malignancy.
Okay. What makes you think that you may be in that 5%?
Can be there, plus I'm not a lucky person. I have had illnesses before, so maybe I will suffer.
I understand your concerns. But I want to ask you something. Let's accept that you have an illness. Even if you have an illness, what are the implications for you? What will happen?
I will have to go for chemotherapy. I will lose my hair, my skin brightness. All my dreams will be unfulfilled. I will have an untimely death.
Okay, so is it that you've been thinking all along that since you've been, you've had bad experiences in your life, so even in this condition, you are going to have a malignant growth and nothing else?
I have seen my relatives being diagnosed, dying from cancer. It doesn't have a proper cure. So, yes, that is a big fear. As I told you, I'm unlucky. I can surely be there in those 5% people and may develop malignancy. Or maybe I'm already.
So we come back. So I was thinking that the second video kind of we were trying to make it less didactic. There were no personal disclosures inside, and people were, we were trying to be more instead of giving examples and sounding didactic, we tried other techniques. And I was also trying to point out the Socratic way of questioning, the clarification question, then how to elicit the core beliefs, what questions you should ask, the evidence questions, the original source questions, and finally the personal implication questions. So I think the third video, we have only one video about eliciting about untwisting thoughts. We'll come to it later. I think we can have a more discussion on this elicitation part. If I would be happy to answer if questions come up. How do we elicit negative thoughts without ruffling feathers? And sticking to the Socratic guidelines, not being too intrusive or didactic.
Yeah, I think discussion at this point of time is better, and I wonder if there would be time for
Yes,
another video.
Right.
We may kind of, proceed with discussion and have people
Absolutely.
raise issues and think about it. And I think this is an excellent example you've already presented, so we can just talk about it. So how do you want to do it? You have questions in the chat box, or you take it straight away?
There are some questions in chat box, and Dr. Tangela Ravikant has raised his hand.
Sir, I'm Ravikant. May I ask a question, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Ma'am, in this COVID example, a lot of parents, a lot of patients, and then even family members, they ask this question: if there is a chance for having COVID, and then what happens afterwards? And if something happens, what, like even doctor friends of mine, they say if something happens to me, who will take care of my kids? And they keep on thinking it in this way. Even if you say the chances is very less, it is real, it is happening. So not just COVID, any other, like ovarian cancer also, that 5%. What if I'm in that 5%? Even that there is a chance, so it's scientifically possible that it can be. So how to handle such things when they keep on thinking more and more about the future? Yes, Mr.
See, like I said, the situation need not always be rosy. That's why I gave you that example of Irfan Khan, who knew that he's been diagnosed with a malignant illness, and the prognosis is not so good. So I mean, there's no way he in fact he died a few months later. So then we have to choose very carefully the techniques. Like in this case, for example, if you are already diagnosed, let's say with a serious illness, let's forget COVID, then this evidence, examining the evidence is not going to work. So you have to think what technique you can use in this case. For example, like I said, if you follow that particular example I gave, we can use the semantic method. You know, instead of saying that I am a helpless cock bobbing about, I feel that I'm being swung gently in the cradle of nature. So that gives you some peace, I presume. After that, we can actually sort out people. The first question that come to people in a desperate situation is, what is going to happen to my loved ones? I still remember I saw a woman in the terminal stage.
एक सेकंड मैं तुम्हें फोन
Yeah.
करती हूँ आधे घंटे में क्यों
In the terminal stages, she told me, doctor, you do one thing, you just ensure that my daughter is not, she gets taken care of. That's all she wanted. So sometimes this can be tackled by the problem solving method. These are the problems that you have. Often have to combine things, it need not be CBT alone, but you can use any of the techniques. Then there's something called the double standard technique, which I have not mentioned here. But like, for example, you have a problem, you are being very unkind to yourself, why did I, but like people have it's all my doing, why did it happen? Then we can say, if there is a friend of yours who has been diagnosed, what would you tell her? In this case, role play may be a very important behavioral technique. From role play, you are the therapist, I am the client, and then we can move on to something known as a double standard technique. We can do that. We can also use, like I said, the semantic technique. There are many other, and finally, we can also use the cost benefit analysis. Thinking in this way is leading you to nowhere. You are not having sleepless night. What if I have COVID? By thinking this, you are losing your sleep. You are not eating well. You are losing maybe you are compromising on your immunity. So have a look. Is this thought proving too costly for you? Yeah. Dr. Ravi.
Prathma, I think I see in the chat box some comments posted and some questions. I will just kind of
Yes, ma'am, please.
take up.
Sure.
One the comment by two participants, Dr. Bhupinderjit and also Dr. Swati, and they say that premature reassurance is not necessary to say everything will be okay and so on and so forth, because this does not work. Rather, there should be a more empathic response.
Absolutely.
Like, I understand what you are going through, you are feeling. I understand your pain, your concern, your worry, and so on. So more empathic responses are far better. There's a question from Dr. Gurvinder Singh, who says that you mentioned a single setting CBT. Can you please explain a little as to what it is?
Ma'am, single sitting CBT, I don't have much personal experience. I think Paralika sir will be able to tell us. He was talking about single sitting CBT in neurasthenic disorders. Sir will be able to enlighten us more.
Not be, I don't intend to enlighten you, but maybe just a stream of light ahead. There are papers in the literature which spoke about one session treatment for fibromyalgia. At times, looking at it critically, one wonders whether they are driven by the patient load and the budget constraints that the hospitals face, whether how much you can spend on these kind of patients and the implicit stigma about it. But rather than that, let us focus on if there are any techniques to lead to the core beliefs more quickly, seek corroboration more quickly, and then deliver the program associated with graded exercise and see if the patient is willing to take it up. So it is associated with the specific treatment, and the CBT will cover the patient perception part about it. And that is how I remember about what I read about it 10 years ago. So there are papers about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also see in the audience very senior psychiatrists who are actually very experienced and in the practice of psychotherapy. I can see, I'm sorry, I may not see everybody, but I can see straight away Dr. Ajit Bhide and Dr. Veena Kapoor. Would you like to make any comment, Dr. Bhide?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Savita, and hi, Dr. Vasudev. Hi, Dr. Sona and Prathama. I think that was a very good summary of cognitive therapy. Unfortunately, now subsumed under cognitive behavior therapy. I always feel it's a little unfortunate forcing, though Beck and his daughter are both very particular now about calling it cognitive behavior therapy. When cognitive therapy came, I was just finishing my post-graduation, and it was a huge shift. It was wonderful to read Aaron Beck blasting psychoanalysis completely as too theoretical, too given to mythology and fantasy without any concrete reality. He did not take into account Erickson's very tangible work in psychoanalysis, but I think it was he was a very frustrated psychoanalyst who turned to more logical thinking. He also acknowledged about 10 years into his work that Albert Ellis had done very similar work. But there are fine distinctions between Ellis's form of therapy and cognitive therapy. To me, those differences are really almost meaningless. Vivek will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the two therapies are based on the reasoning more than anything else and the tangible. I also felt during watching your video that I was about to say that the therapist in the first video seemed too smug, but I think you said it correctly. The dismissive stance and the body language was communicating a certain degree of superiority.
Yes.
It is not fair to comment that there was no empathy. Many people have a lot of empathy with him. The style of expressing that empathy leaves much to be desired. The path to health, they say, is paved with good intentions, and that's what was coming across in the first video. Very remarkably changed in the second, and that's what I liked about the two videos. The way not to do it and the way to do it. First, important to learn the way not to do it. That came across. Incidentally, it is the centenary year of Aaron Beck. I don't know if you recognize that, but on 21st of July, I had occasion to write a piece for somebody else about the centenary of Aaron Beck. And Aaron Beck and Ellis have got together and presented jointly the commonalities in their approach and the differences in their approach. I find adhering to any brand of therapy as adhering to a religious cult. I borrow from cognitive therapy, I borrow from rational emotive therapy, I borrow a lot from psychoanalysis. I am a self-professed eclectic therapist, and I will say we use cognitive principles. Now, you spoke about what is that commitment therapy?
Acceptance and commitment.
If you look at the fine print in acceptance and commitment therapy, it's really no different from cognitive therapy. Look at the fine print. There is a certain resignation that comes into the acceptance and commitment therapy, which does not come in as much with cognitive therapy because you're reasoning rather than accepting. But otherwise, at the core, they are all so similar. Acceptance and commitment therapy, when it was called an innovative therapy, I read and read and read about the literature, and I said there's nothing new about it. We have humanistic school of psychotherapy, which Savita rightly emphasized right in the beginning. I think that was a major movement forward. After that, everything has more or less been in the humanistic framework with minor modifications and not relying on psychoanalytical, I will use the word mumbo jumbo. We are here with the concrete, we are here with reasoning, and we are here with holding the patient's hands metaphorically and literally to lead him to a path that we think is going to be fruitful. It is very presumptuous to think that we know the path out, but we probably have a lot more technical knowledge of how the mind works, and we use that to guide us, help us guide the patient into recovery. Thank you for engaging session, and also thank you, Dr. Savita and Dr. Vasudev, because I noticed your own humble approach to chairing this session, and I think that is what psychotherapy is mainly about, to acknowledge our own limitations and humility. Humbly.
Thank you, Ajit, and Dr. Veena Kapoor, please.
Dr. Savita, thank you. You know, I am also from the old school of thought. Mostly I agree with Dr. Bede. One problem I have with cognitive therapy is that it's very attractive in the beginning. You know, patients are sort of looking for a little bit of directive and quick ways of improving them. And those patients who are more into the intellectualized thinking process, they also appreciate that. However, I do find that they are using it more as a defense. And the underlying emotions play such a part that sooner or later they come back again. You know, the anxiety or the panic or whatever symptoms, maybe they are taken care of to begin with. And they feel that, okay, it reinforces their own doubts and start making them feel positive. But I think it all comes back. And ultimately, I myself do begin to rely or more exploratory or relationship therapy, where my role is not so important as the patients. You know, I became more the listener than the advisor. And of course, from there, you know, the whole exploration starts and the understanding. And then the patient's own recognition of their own, the way they have concluded their thinking. So that's where I am.
Yes, yes. I think it's very important points which are being raised and also have been brought out by Dr. Prathama in the presentation, that although cognitive therapy aims at altering cognitions or thought process with the promise that it will change emotions. But what is the origin of these thoughts and cognitions? Automatic thoughts, they have origin, intermediate thoughts go back, core thoughts go back to what? Go back to your basic earlier childhood and your earlier development, how those thoughts and schemata, cognitive schemata have been formed during early years, and they become your guiding or the building blocks of your personality and way of thinking. So by altering just the thoughts per se, and without altering those schemata, it's a very, very kind of a, so to say, a superficial way of handling and dealing. It can give immediate relief for some time, but may not, and then it's a work to be done continuously, so that becomes a kind of a way of thinking or a way of analyzing your thoughts and handling or dealing with your thoughts, like automatic thoughts and so on, and generate alternative thoughts. So it becomes a kind of a more like a technology, but not so much as insight. So until and unless, as you say, for intellectuals, the insight is important. The genesis, the origin, and the formation of those errored thoughts and schemata, cognitive schemata, is important. And then the moment we start to look at or analyze or understand those, we go into the realm of psychoanalytic approach. So there has to be a kind of a kind of a combination. None of these we can say one is better than the other. Is only how much one is proficient in it and what approach can deliver to what extent, what benefits. Not every approach can deliver every kind of can solve every problem. And other thing I will just kind of share here is when the patient is talking and expressing deep-seated fears, trauma, anxieties, is crying and so on. Sometimes I have seen also the therapist is one's own enthusiasm or feeling that the patient is right in expressing what the patient is expressing, may say, yes, yes, okay, good. I've also heard a therapist saying, very good. Now, patient is crying and saying all this, you know, the painful things, and therapist is saying, very good, go on, tell me more. Now, what is here? It's. I think the therapist is saying that the patient is in the right direction in kind of describing outpouring, but the style and the manner is really something very, very, you know, I would say objectionable and painful and not like to be liked by the patient. So I suppose these fine and subtle nuances of the conduct and behavior on the part of the therapist is extremely important, extremely important. We learn this more in psychoanalysis. as to what we should do, what should be the therapist's stance. We don't learn it so much in the other kinds of therapies. I mean, what should be the therapist's style, stance, intonations, words, and so on. Which is extremely important in doing psychotherapy, because in the psychotherapeutic situation, it's such a sensitive kind of a relationship that you are sitting with the patient and who's talking so much about the inner personal, deep-rooted pains and frustrations and so on. So the therapist's behavior and stance has to be extremely kind of appropriate, professionally driven, and not at all in any way which can be either threatening or in any way this patient may find either dismissive or problematic. So thank you so very much. I think Dr. Sona, do we go ahead? There are no more questions in the chat box.
I have a comment to offer.
We can conclude it, Dr. Sona.
Savita ma'am, I have a suggestion to offer. Hello.
Dr.
GMC Patiala.
Dr. Paradikar wants to say something.
Yeah.
Paradikar, you want to say something? Yes, please.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things. First is there was an article, interesting article, Health Benefits of Narrative by Pennebaker in some health psychology journal. And it was very excellent. It analyzed the narrative based on a computer program, and it was NIH study. And it yielded important good results by just analyzing the narrative. So it is something that could be, I suppose, emulated, replicated, tested in our setting and our context. That was one. And second was, we are ignoring language when we are seeing these sessions and commenting about therapy. When we do therapy in English language, for example, with an English speaking patient, we don't make sure often what the patient means by the words he's speaking, and the patient may not understand the same meaning that we are trying to convey when we speak in English. So it may be desirable to actually collect data from effective sessions based on patient appraisal and then analyze them for the language part of it and the cognitive analysis part of it.
Already लोग बहुत मेरा मुंह देख चुका है.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much. With this, I would like to thank Dr. Pratima. Dr. Sona, over to Dr.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, I think Dr. Pratima still has a video. Dr. Pratima, do you have another video?
Oh, no, I don't have a view. Thank you so much for the active participation.
Okay, maybe we can have another one on the core beliefs and how we deal with the core beliefs. Input from you another time next month. So we do look forward to hearing from you again and learning from you.
My pleasure. I'm humbled. That you all have really put forward
Sona,
so
there
many
was one
suggestions.
question about book on CBT.
Yes.
There is a good book by Aaron Beck's daughter. And it is a detailed description of what CBT is and different techniques.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so maybe Prathama has a list of books. She can put them on our group.
I'll do it. Yes, sir. I'll put it in the WhatsApp group. In any case, all of us know that we usually go through Horton's textbook of cognitive therapy. That's the standard everybody reads. And in addition, I'll share in the WhatsApp groups.
That'll be wonderful.
Dr. Madhumita wanted to ask something. Dr. Bahale?
No, sir, no, nothing.
Okay.
So I thank you, Savita ma'am. Thank you, Paralkar sir. It's wonderful input from you. Dr. Veena, thank you so much. wonderful inputs, Dr. Bide. We're so happy to have so many inputs coming in from our psychiatrists on therapy, and this kind of motivates of us to keep bringing in our perspectives and have a debate and discussion on the different ways in which we can help our patients. Thank you taking our time on Monday on a festival, and we look forward to seeing you all on the 5th of September. Especially thank you, Dr. Prathama. Lovely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Lovely
much. It was
presentation.
wonderful interacting.
A lot of
So
effort went into
instead
that.
of having this next program on second Sunday, we are having it on the first Sunday. Remember that.
Yes.
It will be the first Sunday, and we have a special program for Teachers' Day.
Yeah.
Torrent.
And see you on the 5th. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Not much on torrent. Sun Pharma is just starting on torrentos.
Cadilla was another one.
Cadilla?
Psychiatry drugs.
Cadilla trained.
Cadilla used to bring out this big girls' pictures.
ഇപ്പൊ അവര് വരുന്നില്ല.
Thank you, ma'am. Sona ma'am, it was crossed,
Yes.
I think, close to 100. Means 77, 78 were present. So plus minus. My expectation and my number, I said it will be 75, not more than that.
It is a festival, so I mean, this is wonderful, isn't it?
This is amazing.
Nice
Amazing.
feeling, yeah. Such a nice. So I mean, we're so happy that one can do programs and then rest it.
And
Lovely.
the timing is actually during the Rakhi time. So
Yes, it
despite
is.
that, there are close to 100 people, means great.
Yes, that's great. Wonderful.
Because
Keeps us motivated.
after 1 or 2 people will be little bit of free. After tying Rakhi and visiting sister and those things.
Yeah. Then they joined a little later. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll share the link, these things on Monday.
Okay, Tushar.
Okay. 8th September is next program, na?
5th September.
5th September.
September is Sunday.
Uh-huh.
We are likely to have Dr. Mohan Agashi.
Wow.
He's an actor.
Yeah. Pune.
We're going to have him. So
That would be great.
looking forward to. He's a very nice speaker also.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
Tushar. Thank you so much. You must have taken time off from your festival also.
No, it's okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sacrifices you're making for us.
Can you close it now, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye.